causes of suffering, identifying with that material body. Identifying with that material body and embracing, identifying with the material body and the oftentimes selfish greediness to gratify the senses of this material body and coming up frustrated. No matter how much we get, how much we consume as food for the material body, we find out in the final analysis we're still frustrated. So how to transcend, how to come out of this frustration, the suffering of frustration? See the body as spirit. See the body, correction. See the self as spirit. And engage in purification of all that negativity out of the consciousness, awareness, and all those different levels of intelligence. The more this happens, the more we can experience this real self manifesting as unconditional love for all sentient beings. Unconditional love toward all, and this is a gradual process. This is a gradual process. Gradually, we'll find that we're becoming cleaner inside, more compassion for all sentient beings. In fact, in some instances, empathy for other sentient beings. So the more we're engaging in all of our activities done as offering to this supreme intelligence, the more we see that we behave righteously toward other living beings. And so karma means what? We reap what we sow. So if we can send out goodness and mercy naturally toward all sentient beings into life itself, the more goodness and mercy follows us instead of the suffering related to living selfishly, impatiently toward other living beings. Gradually we're finding out that we have less and less the suffering of frustration and the other negativities related to selfish greed and lack of compassion toward other living beings. We become more empathetic toward other living beings, and we find out gradually we're becoming more and more freed from any degree, any sort of frustration. The more we engage in this purification process, the more the frustration is eliminated. This is a gradual process. It's more like erasing. We find it in a number of different ways, but the way that we are using is called purification. And we're using coming out of the material world and seeing the self as spirit. Some call it consciousness, some call it awareness. We prefer to say that the nature of this spirit, this pure intelligence, is here now. This supreme spirit, this supreme intelligence is here right now. It's manifested through this material body. So how do we attain it? So you see the self as spirit. Offer everything. All of our actions are done as an offering. We can call this offering service. We can call it surrender. We can call it submission. It's like all that we do it as an offering to the Supreme. And then we take a name of the Supreme and call it out all the time. It should be automatic. We should be able to call it out even when frustration tries to approach us in our sleep. Whether it's having us to go on a merry-go-round that we can't seem to get off, frustrating merry-go-round, whether it's making us climb up a hill, and when we get near the top, we have to start again at the bottom. All kinds of frustrations are there. But we're finding that if we can get in the habit of calling out the holy name. The holy name is transcendental. It's beyond the body. It's beyond the mind. The real self is beyond the body and mind too. It's like if we so engrossed in being the body or being the mind, then we dream, have a dream, and this material world, a material illusion, this Maya, it's also a dream. It's a mirage. We get in the habit of calling out the holy name. We can come back to the self, reawaken to the self, the reality. And the reality is beyond all frustrations, all disappointment, all confusion. The real self is this tranquil quintessence, even beyond the silence. The real self is even beyond silence. We talk about the witness. The real self is the witness beyond the witness. You look at the different levels of witnessing, but we say that real self, this tranquil being, which is here now, it's beyond thinking, it's beyond feeling, it's beyond willing, all frustration, beyond all doing, beyond silence itself. Yes, sir. So by purification, and our purification consists of always thinking about the Supreme, somehow or other, more than our life, so that all of our activities, whether it's breathing, whether it's thinking, that's an activity, feeling, willing, doing, all of our activities are done as an offering to the Supreme. This helps us to remember the Supreme, and we know that our Supreme Being is beyond all of this frustration. Our Supreme Being is beyond, even as we mentioned, silence itself. It's beyond all kinds of illusions, whether it's the illusion of sleeping, the illusion of thinking, the illusion of feeling, beyond all concepts, all experiences of illusory experiences of Maya, the illusory energy. This Supreme Being, this Supreme Intelligence is beyond all of this. And the more we can remember that this is the nature of our Supreme Being, the more we can get in the habit of seeing that we are looking out through this body. We're not the body looking, we're the one looking out through the body. And the nature of this one looking out through the body is intelligence. And this Supreme Intelligence, we call it Supreme Being. We call it Supreme Being. And of course, it's beyond all names, it's beyond all forms, it's beyond personal and impersonal. It's beyond all dualities. And some we argue that this Supreme Being is impersonal. But we say it's beyond both. Because as the experience of this, if we look at this Supreme Being as being right here now, and in quality, the being that's manifesting through this body right now is in quality one with Supreme Being. However, this Supreme Being is manifesting through this body, at the same time it's beyond this body. It's manifesting through everybody. At the same time, it's beyond everybody. Within and beyond everybody. Sentient and insentient. See? So this is the goal of our life. This is the goal of this endeavor. And we'll find out that as we're purified of the illusory existence, then we're free from frustrations. Free and freer from frustration. And if we try to experience a frustration, it's trying to enter into our thinking, because it has entered that thinking first. It tries to enter, we immediately remember that we should be chanting the holy name. We should be in constant remembrance of the Supreme Being. So our Supreme Being is this tranquil quintessence, pervading and transcending all being. The goal of our life is union, reunion, reawakening to our forgotten relationship with our Supreme Being. Otherwise, if we're not trying to unite with our Supreme Being, then we are confronted with all kinds of frustrations and confusions. It's the nature of the material world. Material world is a place of suffering. It is, where repeated birth and death take place. We don't have to look very far for that. We see the birds chasing the worms chasing the various bacteria in the soil. Some humans hunting down the birds. Some animals chasing animals for fun, for food, etc. So this whole thing is just a place of suffering. There's a tree that falls over, and the tree, half of the roots of the tree extend out of the ground. And just a part of the tree, the roots is in the ground. The tree is suffering. Suffering is not getting proper nutrition. But we see that the whole material world, from the highest to the so-called highest to the so-called lowest, they're all places of suffering where repeated birth and death take place. So for us, real liberation theology means that we're liberating from Maya, being liberated from Maya. Some might say, well, liberation means if we're not getting out of the Maya, out of the whole material world, it's not real liberation. Because this liberation means we come all the way out of Maya, the whole system. Within Maya, there are various systems. You have this ism, that ism, all kinds of isms and schisms in the material world. But we say we have to come out of all of them because we can't be fixed. We can't be repaired in the material world because we're not material beings. We're spiritual beings. We have to be repaired spiritually. So when you hear people talking about reparations, some of them say, we get all the money in the world and still be miserable. We've seen it in history and met a few people who were materially well off or took birth in a materially well off situation and were still miserable. There was frustration even in their families. When they only had 2 or 3 members in the family, they'd be frustrated with each other. So that frustration and confusion, that is the nature of the material world. So it's a place of suffering. So what is the way out of the suffering? We say constant remembrance of our Supreme Being. Constant remembrance. Always remember and never forget our Supreme Being, who is right here, right now. And so the more we think about Supreme Being, the more our intelligence expands. Right now, for most of us, we're in different degrees of intelligence. But the more we think about Supreme Being, the more our intelligence, our being expands. Because the goal of all this expansion, all this remembrance, is reawakening to our forgotten relationship with our Supreme Being. And so the more we think about Supreme Being, the more our intelligence expands. It's like a flower blooming. It continuously blooms. We say so. Always thinking about our Supreme Being is the energy that expands our intelligence back into union or reawakening to our union with our Supreme Being. And this is the way out of frustration. The frustration, which is the nature of the material world. We wake up in the morning, that frustration wants to get to us because we can't fix something we're trying to need in order to do what we need to do today. Frustration tries to get to us. Call out the holy name. Call out the holy name. If we don't want to believe in the holy name, resort to your breathing process. And when frustration tries to get to you, watch your breathing. Watch the air coming in and out of your chest, out of your lungs. Watch the air coming in and out of your nostrils. But do what you have to do to center down. Come back to your centering point. Of course, we like to use the holy name. And we have other mantras that we can use also. But to use your mantra, come back, call out the holy name. And gradually we find out that we become more and more absorbed in the holy name and less confined about that frustration, because it can confine us, frustrate us, disappoint us, confuse us, and make life without meaning nor purpose other than suffering. So to transcend the suffering, call out the holy name. Engage in your spiritual practice. See that the real self is not physical. The real self is looking out through this body as intelligence. Intelligence which is beyond name and form. This is a way out of suffering. The beginning of our spirituality is that we're not the material body, that we're actually soul. That soul is sometimes called spirit. Sometimes it can be called awareness. Sometimes it's called consciousness. Sometimes it's called Brahman. If you're Hindu, you call it Brahman. The Muslim, you call it Allah.
Okay.
The Christian, you call it Christ.
Yes.
Or God. We say it's beyond all names. It's within and beyond all names. So this is what we put in our world stage. So we don't relate to any particular nationality,
Okay.
any creed, any color, any race, any caste, any class, none of that stuff. Because that's of the flesh. Well, we're spirit. And we say this supreme being is infinite spirit.
Okay.
And it pervades and transcends everybody.
Well, I need all the help I can get.
Sometimes we call it presence. See, but I must admit that we were influenced heavily by Buddhism being in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
You
Absolutely.
And see how the Buddhists are related? We're also influenced by Hinduism too, and the science of yoga. But there are 4 kinds of yoga that we relate to. It's a Jnana yoga, when you're getting knowledge about the self. What is the self? What is God? What is supreme being? That's Jnana yoga. Bhakti yoga, when you become devoted to it. Karma yoga, when you're offering everything to it. So offering, service, surrender, submission, they mean the same thing to us. But you offer everything. And then Raj yoga, which concerns quiet meditation. But the beginning is come out of the material world first. See, we are in the spiritual world right now. The spiritual world is here. So heaven and hell are at hand right now. See, it's a little sublime for some people. I believe you comprehend what we're saying here.
No, I know what you're
But
saying.
we put it
Yeah.
out on the world stage, and there are a number of people who can relate to it on the world stage. But again, that we're not the material body, that we're spirit. And so we say, first of all, you come out of that material world, be in it but not of it. Take a name. I don't know whether you're Christian or atheist or what, but it doesn't matter to us. Because Christian, whether theist
I'm a Christian, but not a good one.
Well, any of us able to follow the footsteps of Yahshua? Very few. It's a very high soul. So anyway, so that's the beginning, that we're spiritual beings, and we worship God as in spirit, as spirit, in truth as truth. So if a person, say if you're a Christian, we say call out the name of Yahshua, or you might call it Christ, you might call it Jesus. We say come out the material world, see the self as spirit, call out the name, and offer everything. That's service. You say all activities, all that we think, feel, will, say, and do, we do it as service to God.
That's true.
Or if you're a Muslim, you might call it submission to God. Hindu, you might call it offerings to God. See, you might call it service. Some call it. But the thing is, to see and serve God all the time, everywhere. And we say the nature of this supreme being is presence. And the nature of this presence is intelligence. So this pure intelligence is another word, we call it divine intelligence, is another word for supreme being. And so, in this way, we say see and serve God and each other. See and serve, because this is intelligence looking out through this body here. Just like this intelligence is looking out through this body. But I'm looking out through the body. I'm not the body, I'm looking at the body. See, I'm not the body. I'm looking out through the body from right here. We call it from up here. Some folks say it's down here in the heart. We say if you look closer, you find out it comes for us.
Okay.
It's from up here and coming through what we call the third eye or the pineal gland. That's like the antenna for it. So we say that same supreme being is smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest at the same time. See, it's more subtle than the rarefied air or ether. So that means that it's small, so small that even the spaces between the subatomic particles, even the quarks, it's so small that it pervades and transcends that. At the same time, it's witnessing the comings and goings of the cosmic manifestation. So this is the supreme being. truth, righteousness, love, and peace. Treating others as you want to be treated.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
yeah, that's the goal. That's the golden rule. That's for us too. We say, but see and serve God in each other. See and serve God in each other. Gradually we see there's no other. There's only God. But this is philosophy that helped me to get my feet firmly on the ground, especially in those few years out of Vietnam, man.
Oh yeah.
Because it was
I
really,
struggled when I come back.
it was did most of us did. And then you know what we found out? It wasn't so much we were trying to identify with being the self that we were when we left.
Yep.
And our friends, they looked at us differently, see? And we were thinking differently because we looked at life a lot more intensely. More real.
Absolutely.
But we were trying to fit in with the world we left. And we couldn't fit in.
We couldn't fit in at all.
No. So what happened with me personally, we stepped out and went out west.
Okay.
And picked up a whole other philosophy of life, drawing heavily on what we've seen, especially amongst the Buddhist monks in Vietnam. Because see, they were tranquil in the middle of all that mess. Everyone, like almost everyone was straining between the eyes, man. That's what I know. Even the nurses and the USO workers, everyone was stressed out between the eyes. But these monks, they were clear. Their faces looked like baby's face, man. I said, what do these people got? They've got something more. What helps us in adjusting was changing the way we look at the self. Because when we left it, we relate to the self as being a material body. So we had to relate to being the flesh, or race, or creed, or color. And we see that most of the problems are caused by we identifying with being the body. You think there's a little kid, little child wants to be a boy, or vice versa. And they go to all, that's not true. That's an illusion. The whole material world is an illusion. But this is really what helps us to come back to this expressive. Now I'm just basically the same person I was in Vietnam, because you know yourself, man. This thing has been so. I've had a lot worse experiences over here than I had in Vietnam, for real.
Well, Vietnam is still with me a lot of days.
It's with me every day, man. You don't forget it. But the thing is, coming back over here and we were in such a hurry to get back to the world, you know.
Yes, we got to get back to the world.
We saw those freedom birds going over there. We had all that time left over. You know, a month seems like a year, man. Especially when you got to that kind of those days, you know. You couldn't wait to get back to the world. But some of the fellas came back to the world and had trash thrown on them on the ship from the San Francisco bridge and stuff. Some of us were ridiculed over here.
Well,
even with me.
When I come back, I was going through the airport trying to get home. Of course, the Army only got us so far.
Yeah.
It's up to you to get home.
Yeah.
And
that's just got to be changed.
you know, and that has stuck with me all my life.
It was rough, man. But change the way we look at the self, and we accept karma too. You heard the word karma?
Yeah.
Karma means you reap what you sow. If we have suffering following us, we put it out in front of us. So we don't blame anyone else. What we're trying to do is get cleaned up, so that we clean up our conscience, clean up our thoughts, so we don't send any bad karma in front of us. So with the exception of karma, you don't blame anyone for your condition except yourself. And you'll see us.
Okay. Thank you.
Throw a little good into the world.
You made my day. Thank y'all.
Well, I appreciate your service, Troop.